a familiar phrase in Israel these days. Perhaps tomorrow, more food will be available again in the crowded cities. Every second man, woman, or child is a newcomer to the state. They must be fed, clothed, and housed. Every person must find some method for survival in a land still so very far from balancing what it has with what it needs. The first and most urgent want of all is food. How will all these people be fed? Can they be fed? Part of the answer is rationing. Each page of the ration book marks a different item of food. Everybody gets an equal ration. This booklet is the most precious property of every citizen. But every 3 minutes, one new person comes into the country. Every 3 minutes, the simple matter of food becomes more serious. 3 eggs per week, 1 pound of sugar a month, 3 ounces of margarine a week. And yet, Israel's borders remain open, welcoming new mouths to feed. 1/10 of Israel's people still lives in camps of tents. They come from many lands, from Morocco to Romania, from the Orient and Europe, the ingathering of exiles from 60 nations, regardless of age, health, or occupation. All are welcome to their homeland. But the hard fact cannot be pushed aside. The food is not coming in as fast as the newcomer. The bread is being sliced thinner and thinner. They live from ship to mouth. But not at the docks is the answer to the mounting food problem. Not imports, but production at home is the solution. Yes, amidst the rocky hillsides and the windswept desert, the new state hopes to pluck out food to feed the ever-growing population. Desert, hills, and swamps. The Huleh swamp. Sodden earth and water. Wasted water, which would be a life-giver in other arid parts of Israel. And here is a curse. The swamp never shrinks. Year in, year out, it is fed by the overflowing waters of the Jordan River, which meanders its way through these quagmires. Swamp seepage is so persistent, crops are doomed to decay. Is this wasteland overwhelming, or is it possible to challenge nature? There is a scheme to make the swampy bog disappear, a plan which will make over this wasteland into one of Israel's richest farmlands. The center of planning for this gigantic project is the Karen Kayemet building in Israel's capital, Jerusalem. Here, the architects and draftsmen of the Jewish National Fund are blueprinting the future face of the Huleh Valley. Some are themselves recent arrivals. The planners are mapping out new settlements for the thousands to whom Israel has opened her arms. With careful organizing, plotting cautiously every extension into the wasteland, the huge design is executed step by step. How many farms? How many settlements? How many ditches? How many cows? How many trees? It is their job to plan down to the smallest detail. On the map, you can see the experts' bold intentions. When the swamps are drained, a central channel, a new riverbed, will carry the waters of the Jordan south. It will pass through land reclaimed from the bottom of the Huleh Lake, which will also be drained. This is the key to the master's scheme to remake the northernmost part of the country. Narrow, shallow, inadequate. There is little room for the Jordan River, swollen by winter rains, to flow freely south. It backs up and creates the stagnating marshes, breeding malaria's message of death. If this stream could be widened, deepened, it could rush south like a vein, drawing away with it the pus-infested swamp water, leaving behind a moist land, ripe for cultivating the food for Israel's growing population. But can it be done? Yes, here is the valley of Jezreel, also reclaimed from swamps by labor and foresight. Its verdant pastures and rich orchards are the result of a former project of the Jewish National Fund. Though desolate from centuries of neglect, the pioneers transformed it into a breadbasket worthy of the biblical description, a land of milk and honey. But Israel cannot depend on her past achievements. The nation must concentrate on the work ahead. The future is being charted. This draining of the swamps, which has been a dream of many decades for Zionist pioneers. Engineers are at work right now overseeing the first stage of the project. When their image comes true, the entire Huleh plain will receive fresh water. The swamp of the Huleh Basin will disappear. The roar of the bulldozer signals the changes. The earth-moving machines lumber purposefully across the terrain, sometimes hub-deep in the sluggish mud. Peeling back the banks, they create a new, wider bed for the Jordan. Almost a full square mile of earth will be excavated. 4 times as much water will gush south here every minute. While this work goes on, depots are being filled with agricultural machinery. Tractors to pull the plows to furrow the rich new earth, sowing machines to plant the pregnant seeds. Pipes must be prepared in advance to irrigate the Huleh plain. The 24-inch tubes will carry in an ordered fashion gallon after gallon of water to the same lands where rainwater stagnated or wasted away in evaporation. These arteries of life-giving liquid will freshen the barren soil miles away to make it spawn a luxuriant growth which will feed thousands upon thousands of new settlers. 100 new villages will become possible to absorb the biblical land's returned children. Channels and irrigation ditches are prepared on land adjacent to the river in the heartland of the plain. Virgin roads are being inched out to connect new settlements that will spring up at the horizon. How many people will live here and carve out a civilization? 20,000, perhaps more. Lake Huleh, which forms the heart of the valley, will disappear from the map. In 2 years' time, the lake will be drained, the bottom made over into a moist, fertile farmland. The fishermen will find new, richer livelihoods in the valley. Their settlements, which have led a precarious life at the edge of the swamp, will take on a new atmosphere. In winter, when rain flooded the area, they were cut off from the rest of the country. But their main enemy is malaria. The disease-carrying mosquito still makes its home on Huleh's lingering waters, infesting the area with a premonition of impending sickness. How often has a leader of a settlement found more workers down with fever than were ready for work? Only the sturdy survive. Those who overcome the initial attack of swamp fever but struggle to regain their impoverished health. These tokens of the recent conflict are symbols of another problem that has confronted the residents of Huleh: safety. Perched on the uttermost reaches of Israel at the explosive Syrian border, the people know well the cruel raids they suffered. They remember the bitter defense they waged during Israel's war for independence. They still feel the stinging loss of brothers and fathers, here memorialized in a monument to the defenders of the Huleh plain. Israel's soldiers must maintain a constant vigilance along her hard-won boundaries. The tank traps sit ominously in the sun. Another hope of the future is the safety to be gained from the multitudes who will populate this border area. New homes will dot the region. Glistening white against the skyline, they will house Israel's newcomers and make warm nests for future generations. The welcome hum of machinery will announce the creation of a new civilization on a soil drained of decay and disease. Where neglect is reigned, a better life will be given a concrete foundation. This is just the beginning as Israel solves its most urgent problem, feeding itself. The future traveler visiting the Huleh will be astonished by the valley's new look of fertility. From small beginnings, 2,000 new farms will bring forth the bountiful crops to replace the heritage of desolation from the past. They will raise the chickens, produce the eggs, and unite the land with Israel's people who so much need its food. Flocks of sheep will graze on the rich pasture land, providing meat and wool. Lush meadows will feed scores of dairy animals that will in turn feed Israel's multiplying population. There will be a series of fish ponds sprinkled throughout the basin where the men can raise their carp. It is another source of food. The women will ply their skill. Their sunny faces will behold a soil finally rid of pestilence. Shady trees will grow from simple plantings in fertile soil. The vision of ripe grapes and sweet fruit hanging heavy from the branches is more than a foolish dream. It will become a reality. Plums, apples, grapefruit, pears, and cherries, all will be plucked from the orchard. Children's laughter at play will buffet the ears where once desert animals brayed. The branches of the family tree will stretch up into healthy limbs on playgrounds wrung from the swamps. Intelligent, happy, secure in the knowledge they will not have to wander anymore. The arm of progress will draw away the hand of decay. The weeds will be pushed back and the last swamp drained. The ingathering of the exiles will continue, and there will be food to feed them. There is something beneath the plain and swamp of the Huleh. There is hope. There is beauty. There is life. Rain will no longer be a curse to the Huleh Valley. Crops will come forth. As the rainbow signifies, there shall no more be floodwaters to waste away the earth. There will be food for Israel.